For the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve our agenda this morning? Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank.
Madam Chair, Gibbon.
All right. Thank you. We call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. And then I'd consider any requests to remove anything from the consent agenda before we approve it. If anybody has a request to remove something from the consent agenda, just come on up and tell me which one. I can hear you, but is there a button on there you can press?
Oh, there we go.
There,
Kelly Brett,
better.
good morning. Say, I would like to see if we can remove item 2, the renewal of the medical cannabis application, if we could move that to the regular agenda.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other requests? All right. With that change to put item 2 on the regular agenda, can I get a motion, please?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. We call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Motion carries, and we'll move on to regular business. Got JLG and DLR. Who wants to start?
Good morning.
Morning, Julie.
Good morning. So I am Julie Dotson with Tegra Group. I'm joined here today with the Architectural Group. We have Todd Orr, Michelle Graham from DLR Group, Lynn Remmers from JLG. We also have Henry Carlson here today. We have Dave Derry and Mike Ralston. We're here today because we were asking for 2 motions. Let's see. Go to the next one. Oops. Oh, do I just go down? 2 motions for approval. The first motion is to approve the guaranteed maximum price. This number hasn't changed from the last month when we went through the numbers, so we're still at that $54.8 million. Second approval would be to approve the design development drawing so we can move into construction documents. This just allows us to make sure we bid the documents in that February-March timeframe and also start construction in April, May. Down. Then this is just our agenda that we're going to go briefly over the schedule. We have DLR to go through the design documents. Henry Carlson, like I stated, is here to review the budget. Again, hasn't changed since the last time. And then we'll talk next steps. So the project schedule, again, the main points on this is really just getting the construction documents done. We are bidding in 2 packages. So the first bid package will be in February, and then the second one to follow in March. And then again, construction starting in April. So I don't know, like again, this hasn't changed since last month, but if you did have any questions, please let me know.
Anybody have questions about the schedule?
Yeah, everything's been on track, so positive. So go ahead.
Hiccups right on track.
It is.
That's very good.
It is. It's been a good process so far, so.
Good.
Okay, well, if there's no questions, then I'm going to hand it off to DLR. Thank you.
Well, good morning. It's Todd Orr with Quartz Architect with the DLR Group. It's certainly a pleasure to be back here today to talk about our design progress for the design development of the new courthouse here in Lincoln County. Just a quick reminder, when we started this process, it's going to be a journey, and we said that we're going to sort of build information piece by piece, bit by bit. And so here, as we get to design development, and as you remember, the first time we presented here with you was talking about spreadsheets and programs and where's the building going to go. And so now we're at a point where the building is taking shape. It has a look. It also has the interior aesthetic of the courthouse. So we're happy here to present the exterior development of the project and also the interior development. So as a quick reminder, we started looking at some precedents of courthouses and also looking at the precedent of courthouses here in the region and how the civic presence of a courthouse on the site is so very important to the community, and how the sort of vertical expression of the courthouse, a very welcoming experience to those coming to the building. So as we sort of jump ahead here to our design today that we're presenting, we've developed the architecture around creating that civic presence on the site, of course. And as we get into the design development, we need to now understand, how is this building going to last? We're going to work with our contractor partners to select materials that are durable, maintainable for a building that's meant to last here in the community. So our material palette of choice is to use precast. Very durable, economical material is going to be the main body of the building. We are looking at what we're calling a textured precast to highlight some key elements at the entry of the building. As you can see, this is what we call the front porch of the exterior of the building, as that sort of welcoming, sort of colonnade type design element that's very typical. We find traditional courthouse experience. And it also defines the entrance, not only from the scale of the site, but also as the public approaches the building, very clear and defined entry procession into the building. So that textured precast is on the right-hand side of the entry pavilion and is a key sort of design element of that piece. The front porch, the underside of the porch, are using kind of a wood look panel system. So it's very durable, very maintainable, but creates that very warm and sort of welcoming aesthetic to the front entrance of the building.
Madam Chair, can we ask a question, or you want to wait till the end?
You can ask questions.
This faces south or faces east?
It faces south.
Faces
towards-
south.
For the main
Okay,
highway,
I just
yes.
wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that.
no, it's a very good question because it's important to understand the approach, right, where you're coming from onto the site, yes. Mhm. Just to the left of the main, sort of what I call the main front porch is a tower element, and it serves as our main communicating stair. So individuals coming into the building can communicate from the first, second, and the third floor via a stair that's very open and welcoming, and it's an easy wayfinding tool, and it takes a lot of the load off the elevator system. So it's a very important design element, if you will, only on the exterior, but also in the interior functionality of the courthouse. Sort of tying the building, Commissioner, to your question of the orientation of the building. So the image on the right, sort of the orange block, is that sort of the south-facing main elevation, if you will, presents itself towards the highway. So the main vehicle approach is off the highway coming south, heading north. There is a roundabout feature that's been part of the design from the early conception that brings people onto the site. And then ultimately, as we look at the master plan and the overall development of the parcel that we have for the courthouse, the roundabout becomes that connective tissue to those other buildings that will eventually be brought to the site. It also is a great security element, so it brings the people into the site, but it slows traffic down as the individuals approach the parking lot that's in front of the main courthouse building. Just to the right on the larger, more detailed plan, ADA access for our citizens coming to the court are so very important. So there's sloped walks on both the right and the left-hand side of that main sort of entry civic plaza. So it's easy access, up to the front door of the courthouse. There's no need, for any special transitions. It's all very and naturally done in the overall landscape and site design. So it's a very welcoming approach for those coming to the courthouse. So is there any kind of questions, I guess, on the commissioner side as we look at the exterior? Because then we're going to transition to the interior of the architecture of the courthouse. The notion of the exterior design and the interior design are very well linked, and the sort of the approach.
I like that idea of that kind of a roundabout. That's a efficient way to move people.
Detention ponds, is there one or two?
It's just one. It's
Just
that one
one.
would be the southwest portion of the site. And right now, if I got to mention the flags that will be part of the overall campus will be located in the roundabout. So initially, we had some designs where they were up at the front entrance, but we pulled those down to the roundabout to sort of activate that element on the site. With that, we'll transition to the interior architecture.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Michelle Graham. We'll, as Todd said, sort of transition inside the building. So now you have entered through our grand lobby and made your way up the communicating stair that Todd mentioned. These are some inspiration images. We, focused a lot on pulling natural materials and also balancing quantities of wood and tile and other materials to create a sort of cohesive interior composition. Again, a lot of our inspiration came from the landscape in the area, the use of the pink quartzite as sort of a undertone for some of the color tones in the building, and then some cooler tones to sort of complement and contrast with that using paint and other materials. When you first enter into the building, we're going to be using very durable materials throughout, starting with a walk-off carpet in the main portion of the lobby. This allows for, it will be a carpet tile, allows for quick replacement as they wear over time, but the walk-off carpet is very durable, very thin, to allow for everyone's boots to get the salt and everything off. The other main materials in the lobby will include porcelain tile on certain areas of the wall, again for durability, utilizing a stained polished concrete floor. This is a very cost-effective way to create the feel of terrazzo, which we all know is a very durable material, but using a more economical material in the concrete. So we will be working with our contracting team, Henry Carlson, to find a polish level and a stain color that works cohesively with the rest of the building. The other materials you see are a plastic laminate and a quartz material. These are going to go on the security desk, again, using very durable materials in such a high traffic area of the building. On the right-hand side, you see some of our selections for the office finishes. The main finishes will be a beautiful carpet tile, along with some plastic laminate for the casework and solid surface countertops, and again, using some of those cooler blue tones to highlight for a tile backsplash or an accent paint color. And those will sort of be applied throughout the different offices on the first, second, and third floors. Was there a question? No, just a mic. Diving into the courtrooms, we, again, are drawing from those natural materials and natural wood tones. We're using two different wood tones in the building. A darker wood American walnut that will be focused primarily on the judge bench and the millwork sort of in the center of the well of the courtroom. And then the American white oak, which will be sort of the main wood for the courtrooms and the rest of the building. You can see the composition of the judge bench with the sort of American walnut wrapping up and over the bench. And then sort of along the rear wall, the American white oak in a pattern sort of reminiscent of the layering of the stone of the pink quartzite, but using wood to sort of represent that. The pattern will all be wood, but we'll use a fluted or raked wood panel, which you can see on the right-hand side there, which allows for just a subtle difference of texture while still using the same material.
I have a question for you.
Please.
I know it's just a drawing or rendering, but are the TVs going to be built into the wall, or are they going to be free floating? And the reason I ask is sometimes I hear some judges saying, I wish I could pull that TV up closer to the jury. And then, so I've just got that question. And my follow-up question, of course, is, I'm sure it's been vetted by the judges already, but that was what I wanted to know.
Of course. So they will be built in because we do need to meet certain accessibility requirements so that somebody doesn't accidentally knock into the monitor. But we can certainly always work with the team to select a mounting system that allows an arm that allows the monitor to be pulled out if that is the preference of the users and the commissioners. So in short, it will be both.
Yeah, and I don't have any preference. I was just wondering what the answer was and whether the
Yep.
judges had vetted that already.
Very nice.
Is the ceiling, what, tile or what?
Yes,
kind of
it will be
fabric
an acoustical ceiling tile, so similar to what you have here. We're calling for what's called a large format, so rather than be 2 by 2, the center portion of the courtroom, yeah, you can't see my mouse, in this zone will be a 2 by 6 tile, so it will be 3 of these together. And then the outside sort of perimeter here, and then behind us over sort of in the rendering where we're sitting will be the standard 2 by 2 tile. And we are using that as one of the main acoustic materials in the space, along with the carpet, to make sure the room is acoustically well balanced. I'm going to go to the next slide. In speaking of acoustics, the third component of acoustic material we're providing is along the rear wall. You can see here we're showing sort of a pattern of 3 different acoustic fabric panels across the rear of the courtroom, pulling in some of those warm pink quartzite tones, and a little bit of pattern, again, in order to capture that sound and make sure that the kind of acoustics of the space aren't too loud. The other things you can see from this rendering are sort of the wrapping of a small soffit in the ceiling to add some height differentiation within the ceiling, and also to sort of define a room within the room where the sort of well acts as the center point of the courtroom, and then the seating around it is sort of in the secondary part of the room. Any further questions about the interiors? We brought samples if you guys would be interested in looking at them now or later. We're happy to pass them around. The wood samples are on the left and sort of the courtroom samples, and then some of the more office standard samples are on, I guess, my right, your left. There are no other questions. Do you want to talk about this, Julie? Or Dave?
Good morning. Dave Derry, Henry Carlson Construction.
And I'm Mike Carlson, also with Henry Carlson Construction.
And so, as Julie mentioned earlier, overall project budget has not changed. We've been working shoulder to shoulder with the design team, the owners reps for months now, aligning scope and budget. And this is where we're at. We've done what we set out to do. And so, from a construction standpoint, from the construction manager's standpoint, we're going to ask for, we're going to establish the guaranteed maximum price at $45,649,131. And so, from here, we just need approval for the design team to move into the construction document phase, so we can get this out on the street and then get it bought out.
All right, anybody have any questions for Dave?
So once this is approved, John, then you put the RFPs out, right?
Yeah, once this is approved, the design team moves forward to construction documents. And then we'll put those out on the street once they're complete and take bids, yes.
Are we going to have hungry bidders?
You know what? If we stay on this schedule, we should have very competitive bidding.
Good. Good.
All right, so kind of, is anyone else going to speak to any of the first two items on the agenda? Nope, okay. So the first thing we need is a board action to approve the design development drawings and proceed with the construction documents. So first I'm going to ask if there is any public comment on item 1 on our agenda. All right, if not, to consider a motion.
I'll offer that motion, Madam Chair, to approve.
Thank you.
I'll
Can I-
second.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. And there being no other public comment, any discussion amongst the commissioners?
I want to thank the chair for working through this with
Yes.
the individuals. Appreciate the dedication you've given to this.
Thank you.
And I also want to congratulate the design team. I sent a note to Tiffany that, you know, we've had forefathers that have built courthouses that have been through testaments of time. And this is something I think that all the residents of Lincoln County can be very proud of. That we've made something that is very attractive and functional and usable, but it's a testament to the county itself, which will someday be number 2.
How about 1?
Kristen, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. And then on item 2, just need approval of the guaranteed maximum price with Henry Carlson Construction. If I can
So
get a-
moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
And I was going to ask for public comment first, but I didn't. So anybody want to come up and give any comment on this agenda item? All right, if not, any discussion on that item?
Well, I'd congratulate them for, when we started this project, you gave us a good figure and you've held to it. And I thank you for that, because we're all accountable to taxpayers, we're all accountable, but anytime that they can see that this has been consistent, congratulations.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. If there's no other discussion, will you call the roll, Kristen?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes,
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. If we want, we could take a few-minute break if you guys want to look at the materials and stuff that are going to be used. Because you probably want to take those with you and not hang out for our whole meeting. So why don't we take it? What's that?
Unless you want us to leave them and I can get them later.
I don't think that's necessary.
I don't think
Why don't
so.
we just take a 10-minute break? And anybody that wants to come look at the materials and stuff can do that.
6:40. And I can't, I think it was 6:01. Get over it. This is- It's finally nice to be our turn, isn't it?
All right, next item on our agenda is a public hearing.
Good morning, Sherry Lund, Lincoln County Auditor.
Good morning.
Per SDCL 72122, I need to do some supplements to the budget for 2023. I'll be adding $100,000 to the Board of Commissioners budget for personnel services that were not budgeted for, $10,000 to the treasurer's budget for personal service with the change in payroll deductions that caused it to be over, and other current expenses with the change in leadership. $15,000 to the postage revolving. We did a change in accounting. We used to take it out of the treasurer's budget at the end of the year. However, that caused her to be over last year, so we're changing it to where it's its own line item now. $79,000 to the Highway Department intergovernmental expense for the wheels tax to the cities and townships. We've collected more money, so we've paid more out, so we need to increase that budget. $45,000 to personal services for the airport, and then $45,000 to operating transfer in. That's due to the new airport manager position. $28,481.08 to the RAIF, which is the Rural Access Infrastructure Fund. We had I'm not gonna be able to say that today, payments paid out that were not budgeted for. And then $300,000 to debt services for TIF number 8. We collected more in taxes than we had estimated, so we ended up paying out more. Any questions?
Yeah, does anybody have questions for Sherry? All right, I'm gonna ask if there are any proponents who wish to come up. This is a public hearing. Any opponents?
Good morning again, Kelly Brack, Sioux Falls, Stratton Circle. Say, I just want to make a comment, may sound like a question, but I'm going to try to make it like a statement. First of all, my husband and I, we do a budget every year, and we try to get it right. Oftentimes, I'll say we need a little bit more wiggle room. I understand that there's going to be budget shortfalls, but $100,000 seems like a lot. And I'm just curious, again, making a statement, how can we prevent these budget shortfalls? This is a significant amount of money, and this comes off of the taxpayers. I just want to state that I think we need to re-examine our budgeting for Lincoln County. Thank you.
Thank you. Sherry, do you want to talk to the $100,000? I'm pretty sure I know what it is,
Do you want
but,
to have Montgomery?
first
Or
let's.
do it one at a time?
Yeah, go ahead and answer that.
So the $100,000 is due to the fact that we hired a commission administrative officer that we had not budgeted for.
All right, thank you.
The commission administrative officer?
All right, anybody else want to come up on this agenda item?
Is this still open for the budget part?
I guess I don't understand your question. This is a public hearing. If you haven't.
Okay, my question is on the group health insurance. We're $26,000 over, and I don't quite understand why there'd be a $26,000 shortage on the health insurance.
The previous treasurer had a single, the current treasurer has family.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this agenda item? All right, if not, consider a motion.
So move, Madam Chair.
Got a motion to approve
Second.
and a second from Schmidt. Any discussion amongst the commission? All right, if not, Kristen, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. We will move on to item 4 on our agenda. Is Harold here? Good morning, Harold.
Good morning, Commissioners. Harold Timmerman, Lincoln County Emergency Management. I wanted a brief moment to discuss an item that came out of the summer study program that was put together by the state, and you want to commend the people for taking the time to do this, that were on that summer study group. And out of this came some suggestions from that group. I had a brief moment to speak with Commissioners Poppins and Aaron's at another meeting. I wanted a time in front of the total commission to bring this forward. I sent a copy of it to each commissioner, Mr. Rasmussen and our auditor. And it was suggested by the summer study group that the state would totally take over the emergency management program. All control would be lost from the county totally. You would have virtually nothing to say about emergency management. Every county should be able to develop and maintain the program according to the needs of the population within that county. Creating the proposed draft legislation would create regions of 4 counties overseen by a director appointed by the state and hired by the state. We have, every emergency manager works to establish working relationships with all first responders, towns, townships, so that when something happens, you know who each other is, what your capabilities are, and what the needs are. One person for 4 counties would be almost impossible to get this all administrated should there be a statewide disaster. Because when you have something like this happen, the emergency manager spends not only all day, but much of the evening working with the townships and the cities to get the damage assessments in and the request for public assistance done so everybody can get the help that they need. The county would still be able to maintain an office for the region director, furnished and be secured, and also be required to help with clerical items for the region director. We have, when you talk about 4 counties together, the possibility for counties to join into a district has been possible for years. We have Hand and Buffalo, which are in a district now. We have Fall River and Oglala, Lakota, that have been a district for several years. If you go up to Eagle Butte, there's 5 counties involved in that district, the Warhawk District, administered by one emergency manager who works with the tribal folks. So this has been possible for a long time at the county's discretion, not dictated by the state. We have other counties in the state where another officer within the county system is also the emergency manager. I know of one county where the Register of Deeds has also been asked to be the county emergency manager. We have counties where the sheriff is also the emergency manager, namely McPherson and Perkins. They have the sheriff doing that duty there. I would hope that, another thing, very little time was allotted by this summer study group for emergency management. I read through all the minutes of all the meetings. The gentleman from Custer County, Steve Esser, was asked to testify, and he was almost cut off in mid-sentence. So this was really cut short. Again, I would like to thank the summer study group for all the work they did, but I do not believe that emergency manager or the emergency management is a budget-breaking item for any county. They should be allowed to manage this on their own, and I'm hoping that should this become an actual piece of legislation that the county commission would oppose it. Any questions I would have, and other than that, that's all I have.
I don't have any questions, Harold. We just went to our Southeast District meeting here last week, and just in the discussions with our Southeast area county commissioners, I really did not get the feeling that any of them were supportive of this. So take that for what it's worth, but that was the impression I got, that was not being well supported by the commissioners.
I know Stacy Ackerman from the Sheriff's Association also brought it forth to the Sheriff's Association, and many of them were really up in arms about something like this happening, so. This just, I wanted to bring it forward in a public forum so everybody knew about it, and if it proceeds further, I'll be back again.
Harold, there's 2 things that I think the summer study was looking at. The first one was the veteran service officer. And veteran service officers, we're extremely fortunate to have probably one of the best ones in the state, Susan Irons. And what they wanted to do was to have them be a state employee. And the idea behind that was that it would save counties money by not having an employee. Well, the problem is that, as you said, Harold, you lose your ability to what she wants to do because now she follows kind of the dictates of the state as opposed to having the freedom to emphasize what she wants to do for the veterans of Lincoln County. So is it a budget breaker to have Susan or Harold on the budget? I don't think so. And then they came along, Harold, at the end that they thought that was good. Then they tacked on your emergency management. And I haven't heard anybody that is in favor of this from county level, because why do you want to merge when if you want to merge, you can do it yourself?
Right.
Yeah. So we probably
It's
don't
just-
need the state to tell us that.
Yeah, my impression was it's an effort to fix something that isn't broke.
Or they're looking for a solution for a problem that doesn't exist, right? You know?
It may exist in one county, but that's
Yeah, Yeah.
beyond what we're going to talk about today.
All right, thank you, Harold.
Good enough, thank you.
Thank
bet.
you, Harold.
All right, next item, employee handbook.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tracy Humphrey, HR Director. I brought before you all today two different attachment items. One is the handbook edits for review, and then the other one is the finalized employee handbook. I can go through this to just review all the different changes. The goal of this update was to not bring anything new for you guys to make a decision on. There's one item that I want to clarify, but the rest of this is all to help make sure our practices are reflected in the handbook and to do some general cleanup like periods, commas, things like that. So we had the various offices review to make sure that everything was in line. So as you can see in the attachment, the handbook edits for review, there's 47 pages. A number of comments are on the right-hand side as I have it on the screen here. Most of it, like I said here, is either reflecting new data or adding a new information along the lines there, as well as adding further clarity. That was really the goal with this new update. Also to reflect the changes you guys have already decided on. We have adding Juneteenth, which was voted on back in January, updating the PTO policy, and making sure that all of our policies are in a new updated handbook for the employees. There's three areas I'd like to bring to your attention and then make sure that they are in line with what you would like. First is on page 9 in regards to seasonal and variable hour employees. Our previous language didn't stated that employees can be hired that are not budgeted, and I felt that from what I understand with the auditor's office and from the mission of the commission, we don't hire anyone that's not either been authorized by you all or is in the budget. So reflected that change here to just say that we do hire seasonal and variable employees. And then the other item that I want to bring into your specific attention is in regards to the PTO. And I can go through all of it if you would like me to, but the other one is on page 17 under 10.2 of the paid time off. It was brought to our attention after we enacted the PTO policy that we made basically a typo with where we had our accrual rates. I had year 1 to 5 as one accrual rate, and then year 6 to 9 is another one. However, how we had the accrual rates listed before, we did it as your first year, and then from when you hit year 1 to year 5, which would technically be your 4th year. So we just, since the language that I added for that first year changed to show just like that less than 1 year, we need to update this to reflect that years 5 through 9 are at this higher accrual rate rather than 6 to 9. The goal with the PTO, just to remind you, was to be a neutral change for the employees, like we weren't trying to take away any benefits. So that was brought to our attention from another department, and working with the auditor, we determined that we just had calculated it incorrectly about what is a year, essentially, and how many months does it take to get to that accrual rate. Other than that, everything in here, I'm happy to go through line by line if you would like me to.
Commissioners? Has everybody had enough chance to review it?
Tracy, I don't see any major changes other than kind of some cleaning up of language that is no longer applicable to where we are today. So, I mean, I don't have any issues with it.
All right. Any
Is-
public?
Excuse
Oh,
me.
no, go ahead,
Is,
Commissioner.
is everyone that's hired, are they given the handbook or are they just told, here's the website, go look at it?
Great question. Yeah, we actually do a new hire orientation where we spend about an hour with them going through all of their, like going through the handbook and going through all our safety manuals. And then we also give them access to this online as well. So,
With
because we
every-
all know that first day, no one really remembers anything. So we do
With every
both.
new hire, you do this? you
Yep,
say?
new hires, we do that. And then the goal would be, as we're transitioning to our new online platform, that everyone would get this acknowledgement fresh as well.
So does that take a couple hours, I mean, with each one?
New hires, typically we're about two to 2.5 hours from beginning to end, yeah. To help them be set up for success.
Not to make it lightly, but the only time a lot of people read it is when they have a personal issue that they
Yes.
want to dig out themselves, you know?
Yes.
So. You looking for?
Anybody have any other questions? All right, if not, can I get public comment on this agenda item? Okay, if there isn't any,
I'll
then
move for approval, Madam Chair, to accept the corrections to the Lincoln County Employee Handbook.
all right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, if not, we call the roll, Kristen?
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Toby Brown, representing County Planning. This item before you this morning is the annual sub-agreement between Lincoln County and the Southeastern Council of Governments for the Metropolitan Planning Organization's Unified Planning Work Program. MPO is required by federal law if a urbanized area exceeds 50,000 population, which ours does. The annual sub-agreement, we did include the 2024 agreement for your approval. We also attached to the agenda the red line version. The only thing that literally changed was 2023 to 2024. The other thing that I would mention, specifically, the sub-agreement is to handle the funds that are transferred through the federal state government through CCOG to Lincoln County. What's budgeted for Lincoln County for next year would be $50,000 for personnel services. May not seem like a lot, but that's approximately 15% of the planning department's personal services budget. So it does help. The other part about it is this is the only grant that you're going to receive where we don't have to do anything extra. This is reimbursement for typical planning activities that the county undertakes. What's not shown on here is within the last few years, we also have received consultant fees or studies. So the master transportation plan that Lincoln County completed, approximately $150,000 study. The county was responsible for less than $10,000 for that study. As well as currently, we are undertaking the highway corridor, or the County Highway 106 corridor study. That's approximately $150,000 study. We're paying less than $10,000 for that study. That study and any questions that you or the public has about the Sioux Falls MPO, I would just Google Sioux Falls MPO and you can be up to date with all regional projects. Also, requirement is that any regional projects such as the Veterans Parkway or the 85th Street interchange, those are all regional type projects. Those have to go through approval of the Sioux Falls MPO and through funding sources for the Sioux Falls MPO. The long-standing joke of transportation planning is what came first, chicken or egg. Neither, it was the road that came first. Those two particular projects are going to have huge impacts on the growth and development of Lincoln County. With that, ask for your approval of that sub-agreement, and I'll answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
All right, anybody have questions for staff?
Toby, just for the record, by our participation, the county's participation in CCOG also gives all the municipalities in our county the ability to participate as well.
The
correct?
northern portion of it,
Yeah.
yep, T and Harrisburg.
And they get some sewer projects to street projects. If they want to ever look online, they can see how much money actually has been funneled into T and Harrisburg and Lennox and every town for that matter to address their infrastructures and stuff like that. So it's a great relationship.
Yes.
Any questions for staff? All right, if not, is there public input on this agenda item? All right, if not, consider a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Aaron, second by Poppins. If there's no further discussion, we call the roll, Kristen?
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Next item.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Rombo, Building and Ground Superintendent. I'm here today to ask that I get permission to purchase a vehicle off of this year's state bid and utilizing this year's budget. This is an item that I had budgeted for next year's budget, but for primary reasons of the fact that one of my major projects, the demolition of that house at T, was combined to a future project that will be budgeted out next year. I have that additional money available this year, and with the idea that the delay in getting this vehicle next year will probably be like an 8-month wait, and this vehicle is currently available right now, and that's why I'd like to move forward.
Anybody have questions for John?
John, I have one question.
Yeah,
Madam
go
Chair.
ahead.
The specs for the 23 identical to the 24, or did they make some changes?
Pretty much identical.
Thank you. That's it, Madam Chair.
All right, any other questions for John? All right, any public input on this agenda item? All right, can I get a motion, please?
I would so move to authorize the purchase of the 2023 F-350. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, Kristen, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, that motion carries. Then we need to circle back to our item that we took off consent agenda. It was our consent agenda item 2 regarding the 605 cannabis renewal. So does the person who wanted this addressed want to come up?
Good morning again, Kelly Brack, Sioux Falls, Lincoln County resident. I wonder if the commission would consider postponing a vote on this renewal application. Reason being is I don't believe sufficient testing for the medicinal properties of marijuana have been effectively, how do I want to say? It's not settled science on whether or not it has a medicinal properties for a variety of ailments. I believe it's all anecdotal. I wish the commission would consider postponing the vote on this because I think once we bring these medical marijuana facilities into Lincoln County, I think there will be a lot of pushback from the citizens who may not know this is even being considered. Also, legislative session is coming up. I would personally like to see more rigorous laws surrounding what it takes to get a medical marijuana card. And again, I wish the commissioners would reconsider and postpone a vote until we have more information on the efficacy of marijuana when it comes to certain ailments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public input on this agenda item? All right, in your share file, there's the documents that were submitted for the renewal. It appears to me that the applicant has met all of the qualifications for the renewal pursuant to South Dakota law and any relevant Lincoln County ordinances that are in place. I know Mr. Ned's here, Mr. Horsted's here. Ned, do you want to come up and say anything? I'm not going to get into the merits of medical marijuana today. This is just simply the renewal, but if you'd like to come up, you certainly may.
Madam Chair, Ned Horsted, CEO of 605 Cannabis. Apologize, I'd be suited up right now, but this was on the consent agenda, so I didn't expect to be here this morning. We have followed all of the ordinances. We have been in business over a year. We've paid the county about $70,000 in local licensing fees. Since we started to postpone this or consider not renewing this license when we followed all the rules would be a very bad practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion amongst the commission? All right, any other public input? If not, I consider a motion.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Madam Chair.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just what I'd like to add, I know you don't want to get into the merits of it, but I do want to say this. I had a very good friend I served in Iraq with. He came back with a number of physical and mental health problems. He was a sopping drunk alcoholic in order to deal with PTSD. The VA put him on medical marijuana, and now he's an excellent functioning member of society. As far as I'm concerned, the science is settled.
All right, thank you with that. I've got a motion and a second. We go ahead and call the roll, Kristen?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. Next item we have on our agenda is our opportunity for public comment. This is for items that are not on our agenda today. If you'd like to come on up and say your piece, now would be the time to do so.
Good morning again. I just wanted to respond to Commissioner Aaron's statement that it's settled science as far as he's concerned.
I asked for public comment on this. This is for items not on the agenda,
Okay.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. If there's no other public comment, any commissioner reports today?
Madam Chair, we had a meeting in our region where we had 6 counties come in periodically during the course of the year. The commissioners discussed issues, as our chair has mentioned. One of those was what Harold talked about, and pending legislation that will be in front of the legislature. And tomorrow, we have an executive board meeting for the county association, which will go over those legislative items that the counties may wish to bring to the legislature. One of those should be of interest to us is indigent defense, because if the penitentiary is located in Lincoln County, of course, we are liable for that kind of defense. I commend Representative Otten, who has drafted legislation to be brought to the legislature, which will absolve the county from having their responsibility. The idea is the state just puts a facility here, and now we have to provide defense for issues that occur inside the penitentiary, which is an unfunded mandate, so to speak. So stay tuned on that one, but when that gets to be the legislature, and if this thing unfolds, I think every resident of Lincoln County should be in favor of that kind of legislation. So that's my comment, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other commissioner reports?
Madam Chair, I had the opportunity last week to go and meet with the Minnehaha County Auditor, Leah Anderson. I also met with Deputy State's Attorney Eric Bogue, and I also met with members of the auditor's staff regarding my request to Minnehaha County to ascertain what are the cost of indigent defense for prisoners held at the state penitentiary in Sioux Falls. And I appreciate them giving me the time. They had a full team and full staff there to sit down with, and we went through all of the issues. And I'll tell you this, here's the long and short of it. They don't track it. So they don't know what the cost of providing indigent defense are, because, and it's not because they don't care, because they're trying to hide anything. The reason is in their accounting systems, they don't attach a tag or a title called state prisoner to every case that their public defender's office handles or the public advocate handles. They just handle, for example, when a public defender goes in and represents somebody, they just represent them as another client. So they have not created a database or a system that allows them to, figure out, okay, we spend this much money on prisoners versus we spend this much money on somebody off the street who's in the pre-adjudication phase, who's not, being held at the state prison. They did, to their credit, they did offer to a certain extent to try to figure those numbers out, but it would take anywhere from 50 to 150 hours of a deep dive research project to try to figure it out. And of course, under South Dakota's open records laws, our county would have to pay for that. And they have the discretion. They don't even have to engage in that because, of course, they're not our researchers. So it is unfortunate. But they did, after that meeting, I did go and speak to Carl Tonis, who is the circuit court administrator for the Second Circuit, which covers Minnehaha and Lincoln counties here. And I asked Carl to do a search of all defendants that have an address in Odyssey, that's our court filing system, listed as the state penitentiary's address. So he's going to do that. He's going to pull that for us. He's going to try to pull some other data, and so that we can at least get some kind of grasp or understanding. But it won't be a complete report on how much is spent. So that's where we're at right now in terms of trying to ascertain what the cost would be to Lincoln County. And then I think I've said this before, Madam Chair, but I did go to the Bonham County Auditor's Office, and the report that they pulled for me, they're obviously a much smaller county that does not have a public defender's office. So they were able to readily pull the records for me, but what they've spent on indigent defense for people who are in the Department of Corrections facility in Bonham County, that was $43,000 over the course of 10 years. So we'll continue to work with Minnehaha County to the extent that we can, and then we'll continue to work with I'll continue to work with Carl at UJS as well to see what kind of numbers we can get. But I think that data would be helpful to policymakers as well as to legislators when they're either drafting or considering some of this legislation for the next upcoming session. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner reports? All right, if not, do we have a need for executive session today? All right. All subsections? Okay. Can I get a motion to go into executive session under SDCL 125-2 sub 1, 3, and 4?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Kristen, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. We call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's, Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. And then I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. We call the roll, Kristen?
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Motion carries.